In an escalation of tensions between the U.S. and China, Beijing has officially closed the U.S. consulate in Chengdu. The American flag outside the building was lowered Monday morning. The move comes days after the U.S. shut down China's consulate in Houston last week, alleging espionage and intellectual property theft. Craig Allen is the president of the U.S. China Business Council. He joins us live now from Washington via Skype. So, consulate closures are quite a big step. They're quite hard to undo. How much of a downward spiral are we in, do you think?
Well, this was definitely a major escalation in the tension. First, the closure in Houston, and second, the retaliatory closure in Chengdu. Both of them are quite unprecedented. Both of these offices have been open many years. They're big, important offices with dozens of diplomats in them. And thus, this is a major step, a slamming of the door, if you will, making resolution of the U.S.-China bilateral issues even more difficult.
So just in terms of what this relationship looks like going forward, at this point, with 100 days to go until the election, is China just crossing its fingers, hoping that there's going to be a new administration that comes in January and much of all this will be reversed? What's their game plan? What's their thinking at this point?
Well, I think that the Chinese are watching very closely and retaliating to American measures in a very calculated and reciprocal manner. Well, we close Houston, they'll close Chengdu. We sanction some people, they'll sanction some people. They are not initiating retaliatory measures. They're not actively hostile. Indeed, American companies in China are not reporting any retaliatory measures. So the Chinese side is very much in a reactive mode, responding to initiatives by the Trump administration.
So when you think about just how significant these rising tensions are, particularly this year, obviously there have been rising tensions for quite some time now, but particularly in the last few months, what does that do to the corporate environment when you have the world's two biggest economies at each other's throats in this way?
Well, the corporate environment is very uncertain currently, and it's uncertain going both ways across the Pacific. The tariffs, per se, have been set, and the Phase 1 agreement seems to be working out quite well. And thus, within the overall geopolitical storm, trade is flowing both ways across the Pacific in a pretty normal manner. Where I would say that we have been affected is in new investment or marginal investment that would either be coming from China to the United States or from the United States to China. Some of that has slowed down. It's a little bit difficult to differentiate between the geopolitical tension and COVID and exactly why. But there has been a slowing of investment while the bulk of the trade activity is carrying on pretty much as normal. Indeed, in some areas, particularly in agriculture, we see a big uptick, quite a bit of new U.S. export in corn, in soybean, in meat, and in other agricultural commodities. So it's a very mixed picture in an overall environment of considerable instability and uncertainty.
When you look at the relationship overall and just some of the pressure points and problem points over the past few months, you think about, obviously, trade tensions, the consulate closures, accusations of espionage, rhetoric when it comes to COVID, Hong Kong, of course. Does the business environment at this point feel that unless there is another administration that comes in, this relationship is beyond repair? What is the business community saying about all of this right now?
Well, I do think that the results of the election are obviously very important. But at the same time, the Congress has been passing legislation that is quite anti-China, almost unanimously in some cases. The Hong Kong Act would be one case, the Uyghur Act yet another. And therefore, I think if even with a change of administration, we don't expect a dramatic shift in tone. The U.S.-China bilateral relationship has many challenges, and businesses are working within those challenges, meeting their legal obligations on both sides with more and more difficulty. And I think that we expect that uncertainty and that volatility to continue. At the same time, China's economy is delivering quite robust growth, even in 2020. And for the rest of this decade, China will produce 30% or more of the world's growth, and therefore businesses have to be there. That is where the exports are, that is where the market is, and businesses will go where there's growth.
Right, Craig Allen, thank you. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much.